Yeah,
Now
hey
that Justin's
Shelby,
here, we can get started.
Justin.
How you doing, Justin? Well, first off tonight, I wanted to also get a chance to meet and hear from Shannon Corder, who is recently of the registrar's office and now our academic advisor, and probably five other hats that she wears at Saybrook at one time or another. Just as we get started, we've got, of course, a crowd of people. Lorianne, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the introduction. I'm really excited to move into advising. I officially started a couple of weeks ago, but I've been sort of making the transition, working with Carla and the other advisors, learn about the programs and how registration and everything works. I have worked in higher ed for like 15 or 18 years in general. And I worked at Saybrook for 4 and in the registrar's office. And then I've worked in registrar's offices before that. So I do know a lot about like what happens after I submit my withdrawal form, or how long is it going to take to get my specialization changed, that kind of thing. The really glamorous inner workings of those machinations. But I'm happy to make appointments with people. I'm going to continue to work with the um, academics here to learn more about the program, and just be patient with me. If you have a question, it might take me a minute to look it up because I want to make sure I get you the right answer, not a creative answer. Um, and yeah, that's kind of me. I live in Los Angeles. If you come to the RLE or next fall's VLE, no, CLE,
CLE next time, yeah.
the CLE, I'll be there. I know you guys are probably not you don't usually do the spring
Right.
ones.
We're just
Uh,
doing the fall one, so
yeah,
we'll be virtual this next time.
yeah. So yeah, I live here, and I live close enough to Universal Studios that as I walk down my back staircase, I can look out and see their parking lot, and there's this giant minion head that like looks out like this. And so again, very, very glamorous life.
hmm Um, I was in a meeting the other day and they said that Jeff was going to be doing batch registrations coming up. So it sounds like a lot of the psych students aren't scheduled at all, and they're not registered at all for the coming term. Do you know how many of our students have been registered already?
Yeah, it is a large amount. Let me see. I don't like to mess with the shared um, folder, so let me try really quick to, if you want to keep talking, I'll pull a quick
Okay.
little report and I can tell you.
Well, we have a couple issues. Every term we have to look at the class size. The new magic number is 8 from the university standpoint, although there are some classes that will be smaller than that because they're specialized classes, and we often depend on MBM students or clinical psych students or non-clinical psych students to come in to make our numbers. Uh, the one we're most concerned about right now is the research class. You remember we merged 5121 and 5122 into RES 2500. So, after the 2100, you'll take 2500 from now on. But there are some of you who took 5121 but haven't yet taken 522. You should be taking 5126 just to confuse all the numbers together. And right now, the last I checked anyway, there's only one student in that one. But if any of you have taken 5121 and have not taken 522, you should be in 5126, which is simply named psychophysiological research. If you haven't taken either course, and you're just finishing up 521, you'll go into RES 2500. And then we have a host of other courses. Some of you got together and created a course so that we will be teaching the hormones class this time. I don't know, Rich, you want to say anything about that class? Last
The
I checked, that
hormones,
had pretty good numbers in it.
yeah, it's got 8 students already. So the administration should be a little more content. And the key here, if you'd like to learn about the impact of hormones on behavior and behavior on hormones, this is your chance because we probably won't give it again for more than a year. So if you'd like to take it, uh, now's your chance. So you might want to put something off. That's
So
all I have to say about that. About the research class, though, we really only have one student in it right now, and he's in a master's program, so we kind of have to give it because we can't hold up his graduation. So this is a great time for you to not leave somebody all alone.
uh, yeah, according to a little bird I saw, we have all but 12 students currently registered at some level. You all want to look at your programs to make sure that you're in the classes you think you should be into. You should look and see if you want to add any classes. You need to let us know. Um,
And I
if
just
forbid,
sent those programs out to most of you because I didn't realize that the emails hadn't been sent out. So should be really handy to find that email because I sent it out within the last hour or two, unless you were already contacted by Carla earlier in the term. But for those of you that had been registered in the last couple of weeks, you had been registered for a while and I just emailed you. So please do take a look at that. I think that Carla may have notified a few people of if you had a partial registration. So there may have been a few people that are registered in one class, but maybe not, or one or two classes, but might be missing one where we might need to choose an elective. Let's see, I'm trying to look. Yeah, there's
of course,
Yeah,
Kurt
I
and
only see
the
out of everybody registered, there's only 3 that are partial, and one of them is someone that I'm talking to. So,
okay.
so yeah, but do check, make sure that we have it right, especially because it's my first term, and if I helped, God knows what kind of mayhem I may have gotten up to. No, just kidding. Carla did most of them, and the ones that I did were really, really basic and based on what Carla told me. So everything should be cool. But if there's something that looks funny, please let us know.
Yeah, just remember, we make out your program plans when you first come in, and they generally are good for a little while, and then they fall to pieces because of, it doesn't have the electives obviously in there, and sometimes classes will switch because we move from one semester to another. So it's always a work in progress when it comes to that. So do check your program plans early and often. Said Kurt, and the sports psychology ones are always the extra challenge because we don't have many students in it, so we kind of lump them in the courses. So this spring, we do have a new faculty member coming on board who is teaching the course in psychology of athletic injury. She just coincidentally wrote the textbook on the psychology of sports injury. Her full-time job is at the University of Wisconsin, and she has a world of expertise coming in. So she's completely redone that course. So you'll have a new syllabus, a new shell. But at this point, all of you in sports psychology will be in that course, just so we have a lump to go through. Any of you who have an elective and you want or are interested in the psychology of sports injury, all of us that have played sports and have been injured, you still have time to sign up for that as an elective.
That reminds me, for both that class and the hormone class, Are those classes that require APH prerequisites, or are those classes that could be taken by students outside the department?
They can be taken outside the department. I
Okay.
don't, yeah, I think that's true for the research class too as well, so.
Yes. And the hormones class is great for people in both psychology departments and MBM.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'll try to cross promote.
And Shannon, before you tell somebody no on prerequisites, please touch base with me because
Oh,
there are a
yeah.
lot of those kind of in place that probably shouldn't be in place anymore. So,
I know, yeah. I noticed there's a couple that were classes that haven't existed since I have worked here, and I was like, I don't think that's right. So I talked to Carla. It was like APH 5001 or something that looked like it was an old prerequisite or something.
yeah.
But yeah, I definitely will do that because I'm familiar with the nuances and
Yeah.
picadillos of our registration system.
And really tracking down where those are because, they're not in the catalog. I can't find them on my end, so it's got to be in Campus View or someplace that those prerequisites are located. So if we can find a way to scrub them, I'd appreciate any help on that.
3 letters, PMR. We
Yep,
have to locate them. I'm pretty sure, unless we could show, but anyway, we
yeah.
could talk about that later. I'll make a little note to look to see if I see a pattern in the courses that keep popping up.
A lot of times the PMRs are to change things in the catalog. Well, they're not in the catalog, so I've got to find them first.
Yeah, if it was, maybe it had been changed at some point somewhere else in the catalog, and it's not in there anymore, and the change didn't happen in the system. That's the easiest way. We just gotta kind of reverse engineer it.
Mhm. I see we're up to 26 people on the line now. We'll keep an eye out for our next guest here too. However, speaking of research, the thing we wanted to point out is that there are new rubrics for dissertation and thesis and things now out of the research department. It will be in your syllabus for all the research courses, but a lot of you are midstream in your dissertations and things and really need to know that they are reviewing your finished dissertation by this rubric on 10 different items on it. So you want to look those up ahead of time as you're writing. So for those of you who haven't started your dissertation, it's the perfect time to get familiar with, what it is they're looking for in terms of constituting the dissertation. So you'll find it multiple places. It's on the research website, but it also, they tell me, in the syllabi for each of the research courses. According to the illustrious Dr. Sherman, it's also in the syllabus now for the course shelf for the new 2600 course. But things are getting much more focused and organized. So, you should have a little more guidelines instead of the question of how do I do a dissertation? There are lots and lots of resources now within the research department to look at it. Each chapter actually has a rubric in terms of what they're looking for in each one of the chapters. So hopefully that will be helpful.
Another word about this. A lot of people really aren't familiar with the format for dissertations and APA's Style Manual 7 and the linguistics of writing the first 3 chapters of your dissertation, which go into your proposal. So you might want to contact the writing center before you send the first draft of your proposal to your committee. So your proposal would go to your chair and then the writing center and then the committee. And you'd want to do that for the dissertation itself as well. So let the writing center have a look at your at what you've written up before it goes to your committees. Does that make sense to everybody? They can really, really help you.
They have a lot of resources too. Let me look up the Commons and see if I can find the link for the Writing Center page. I'd drop it in here so you guys can see. You can make appointments with them, and they have open hours and tutoring and all kinds of cool stuff.
And one of the interesting things is, APA doesn't actually have a dissertation format. So while we use APA style, there's also the Saybrook Style Guide, which covers the areas that's not covered by APA. So, it always drives us nuts. Like, well, why do we have a style guide if we have APA? But it's because APA style is designed for, books and journal articles. It's not designed for dissertations. So there are some extra tweaks. And of course, Writing Center will have that. So again, they have a rubric, they have a layout for each chapter. So more structure than what we've had in the past anyway. Any questions about any of that, or particularly any questions for Shannon while we've got her, since she's all yours for a few minutes.
And Rebecca, I want to know what you're crocheting.
I'm making a blanket for my daughter for her high school graduation, which already occurred. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah,
A blanket is a commitment.
it
You can
is.
decide about halfway through. I don't crochet, but I knit. And I do think crocheting goes a little bit faster, but man, halfway through that, I've just made a baby blanket. And I was like, do I really like this baby enough? It's like, that's why there's something in knitting called second sock syndrome, where you finish a sock and you don't want to do the next one because you're just doing exactly what you did all over again. So a lot of people will knit them. There's a way to knit them both at the same time so that you don't give up on it after one. Or you could just do Christmas stockings.
Dr. Wilmar, is there a plan laid out for what's going to be academics are going to be offered spring and
Yep.
going into spring? I'm sorry, summer and fall of next year. Is there courses laid out?
It's actually laid off for the
And then
next 10
prior
years
for-
if you want. It's all in the academic in the master index.
Yeah, I've
So
looked
it's
at
laid
that.
out for the next 10 years, but that's not to say that there may not be last minute changes because we're really dependent on enrollment. But yeah, you can look at the master index and everything is laid out to some of them are offered every other year, so they'll be listed as spring or fall, odd or even.
Okay.
If it doesn't say odd or even, that means it's offered every term or every year that term. If
Okay.
it says fall odd, then it's offered every other year on the odd year.
I've looked at that. I was just wondering if there was like a master list to be able to look quick without having to scroll down through and try to filter and see if it's being offered for future planning. So, but I have looked at that. So
Okay.
Thank you.
Anne?
Hi, I had a question because I did receive my plan from Shannon, which I appreciate. I had a look at it and I am signed up or enrolled at the moment for the research class, and I look forward to taking a class with Dr. Sherman. But that aside, if I'm not going on for a PhD, I guess my question is I took the intro to biofeedback class, which has been phenomenal. Had to purchase a lot of equipment, spend some money, and I would like to enhance my understanding. And at this moment, I don't see advanced biofeedback in my planning.
You're in the
Uh-huh.
sports psychology, so
Correct.
you should not actually be in a research class with Dr. Sherman.
Okay.
The only one in your program is 1700.
I don't know what the number is, but I'm enrolled in a research
Okay, yeah, you
class,
should be in RES
so
1700, which is the things, and that's the only research course that you have in your master's program. The
I don't know,
biofeedback is the
Shannon.
only one, but you can do advanced biofeedback as one of your electives. But what we're trying
I'm
to
in
do,
1700. Sorry, research method for practitioners. I'm in 1700.
okay, good. That's the one you should be in.
Okay, fine. Yeah, but I guess I was just asking because I guess what I'm trying to say is biofeedback for me, there's been such a steep learning curve. It would be great in the next semester to continue that learning curve versus to take 3 or 4 months off and plus the summer and then have to come back to
Mhm.
advanced biofeedback. So I was just wondering when advanced biofeedback is offered because it's not in my plan before graduation.
There's an alternative. You can take psychophysiological recording.
Okay.
That is the equivalent of intermediate biofeedback. It
Okay.
covered that. So
Is
but
that
again,
offered
that would
next
be an
semester?
elective. That would be an
Yes.
elective for you because it's again, we set up your program plan to match what AASP requires for their
Ah,
certification. And that takes up a lot of your 40 credits, for that. So there's not a
right.
lot of extra criteria. If you
No,
are
yeah,
not particularly interested in becoming a AASP certified, that gives us a little more flexibility if you want to change your program plan a little bit. All of the people in the sports psychology program plans are going to be a fiasco again because of the low numbers right now as we're just starting up this program. The theoretical on paper, what we're offering goes out the window as soon as we have to get enough people into a certain
I
class
see.
to do it. So, which is why you're all in the psychology of sports injury this term, even though Kurt was the first one in the door, so he's had all these classes. So while he's having it in his third or fourth semester, other people will have it in their first semester. You'll having it in your second or third semester. So yeah, it's going to be fun for Shannon. She'll help me with the puzzle of trying to figure out how do we get all these required courses in without having a class of 2 people.
Yeah, I would say if Anne is able to take that class we were just mentioning, the recording class in the spring, we could swap it with RES 1700 because I think that's pretty much always offered because it's the research course. But Anne, if you could just shoot me an email real quick, or you could just send it to academic.advising@saybrook.edu. I'll take a look and I'll discuss with Dr. Sherman and Wilmarth to see what the best way forward is.
Yeah.
Because there is at least one more elective, I think, in the
Right.
program.
I guess what
Uh,
I'm asking is a broader question is there's things about Saybrook needing to fill seats, right, to make it worthwhile offering the course. And then, like you said, there's courses needed to fulfill the requirements if you want to become a certified mental performance coach. And just, I guess I'm looking, I'm new on this. If someone who is the person, it sounds like Shannon, like to help me understand the pros, cons, what you're giving up, what you'll benefit by taking this class, what you're giving up with that class. Like, just help me understand. That's all I'm
I think for
asking.
the class content itself, you want to talk to me. If it's for the the general layout, then that's Shannon, and we'll coordinate on that.
Psychophysiological recording is APH 5101. And it really should be called intermediate biofeedback / psychophysiological recording. You just haven't put in the PMR for that.
We we do want to confirm though that 1700 is being offered because as a master's program, so she's not with us too long, so we don't want to miss a semester when it is offered. And
I'm going
have
to
her
double
end up-
check right now if it was
Yeah.
offered last summer. I think I'm guessing that it was because so many it's a foundational class that so many people know. So and I'll just send you a message really quick once I look that up.
Okay.
Could I ask people to turn on their cameras so that we get an idea of who we're talking to?
Well, and one of the people that we can be talking to is I noticed that Barbara has joined us, although Barbara, you're a little blurry.
Yeah, we can't
I'm
really
so
see you,
sorry.
Barbara.
I cannot get my video to work for some reason, so I see this blurry thing of me. I've been working on it for about 15 minutes, and that's the best I can do. So we'll have to pretend it's live radio, I guess.
Yeah. It looks like you forgot to take the Kleenex off your camera lens or something.
Yeah, I tried cleaning the lens and everything else. I don't know. I tried the settings. Anybody else have ideas? I'd love to hear them.
The other thing would be the lighting. If you've got too much light come from behind you, is there a way to turn it to a side?
I mean, it was working fine earlier today, of course.
Mm.
Never fails.
That's right.
But luckily, there's a picture of me in the PowerPoint, and I'm not
So we
critical.
will be able to know what you look like. Huh? Mm.
I don't think that's the issue, though. No, I'm just blurry.
Hmm.
Very strange.
I'm going to make you the presenter, I think, the co-host. And so all of you got a short blurb on Dr. Minton. And she talked to Cynthia about getting set up for this meeting. So I'm looking forward to this as also as a former music major turned psychologist. So we have that part in common. Let's see, we're getting close.
Yeah, we're getting close here.
So one of my pet peeves has been the need to reestablish the field of psychomusicology so that rather than music majors pretending to be therapists, we have therapists who use music. Barbara, if you could, I'll wait until you're finished getting set up here,
Yeah,
but
I'm
looks
just
like you're
trying to-
almost there.
Almost here. All right, here we go.
Okay. So if you would like to do a little more full introduction to yourself, the floor is now yours.
All right, I'd be glad to do that. Sorry about the camera. But we're going to be talking today about using music to increase self-regulation. And I want to just start with, I know it's the end of the day for everyone. Some of you, it's much later than others. I'd like to start out, hopefully these links will work, by showing you a video of a song that Callum Graham and I composed to create a certain biological, psychophysiological response. And I'd like to just open by playing this song for you and just give you a chance to, you can sit back, close your eyes, experience the music, you can watch the video, whatever works best for you. And then we'll talk a little bit about music and self-regulation. So here's Callum. This song is called Tassikal, which is Estonian for balance. Okay, reactions. Anybody have?
In the chat, we have, oh my God, amazing, beautiful.
I'll let you be my chat
The
reader.
thing.
That would be wonderful. So,
Very lovely to the ears.
yes. So think about what this registered in your body, what this registered in your brain, what images you might have gotten as you listen to this. Is it something you would listen to again? Under what circumstances would it be helpful to you? I want to talk a little just briefly about ethics. So Callum and I composed a set of songs here that I'm going to be talking about. And but I am not, so you can buy the album. I hope you buy it. It's downloadable, and it's also, we also have CDs now, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. However, I make no income off the album, so that's just ethical disclosure, because I didn't want to make any income out of it off it, so that I don't have any investment in selling it to you or biases in doing the research. So that's the ethical statement. So a bit about us. So Callum Graham's on the left, of course. You probably recognized him from the video, and I am on the right, which you can't recognize me since I'm all blurry, but pretend that's what you see in your camera. So I actually went to music school for 3 years as a pipe organist, as you can see, because I just love playing instruments that everyone else in the universe would love to play and hear. But Callum was smarter and actually took up the guitar. I changed my major to psychology, and PhD, and 35 plus years later in the field, here we are. And I'm also doing some work. I hope you go to Callum's website. It's just www.callumgraham.com. He's one of the top 25 or 50 acoustic guitarists in the world. And another person I've been working with is this guy here. His name is Peppino D'Agostino. He is an Italian he's an American who's been living here for about 35 or 40 years. And for those of you that are in the Bay Area, he lives in the Bay Area and does concerts, and I hope you'll go to one of his concerts. These guys are both amazing. I can't believe they're working with me. But why should we learn about music? Well, hopefully from experiencing a little bit of music, you understand that even 4 or 5 minutes of music can have a pretty big impact on somebody's emotions and on their psychophysiology, which I'll be going through some of the research on this. Globally, people listen to approximately 2.6 hours of music per day. This is a huge amount of input into the system. And the question is there a way to harness this input to increase well-being? Now, I'm going to talk about some of the profound effects that music has on the brain and on the body, but of course, we always have to pay attention to foundational activities. So if you eat a terrible diet, like some of my clients who are existing on chips and pasta, or you don't get enough sleep, or you don't exercise, music isn't going to somehow save you from all that. There's some other ways to not use music. And here's an example now. Are people here familiar with QEEG and
Yes,
brain waves? Or
for the
would you
most
like
part, yes.
Sorry, what'd you say?
For the most part, most of them are, yes.
Okay, most of them are. So let me just tell you, this is a client that I had who was in their early 20s. They wanted to go to med school, and they were having trouble with anxiety. So I want to show you these maps. So I said to him, well, what kind of music do you like to listen to? And he said, well, I really like to listen to rap music. I was like, I like rap music too. Let's listen to some rap music and see what your brain looks like before and afterwards. So you can see here before, so these are the slow waves. These are delta. This first one on the left is delta, a sleep wave. Then theta. I'll give you like the super brief way overgeneralization of these waves. Theta, a pre-sleep wave, is next, and you can see anything green is roughly in the normal range. Yellow and orange means there's too much of that wave, so he's got some excess theta. Alpha, that Zen calming wave. Beta, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed wave. This is a little bit of tension around the eye, so this red isn't real. And then high beta, a very fast wave that's sometimes associated with agitation, anxiety, peak performance, things like that. So I took this QEEG before rap music, and we see a little bit of excess theta and some excess high beta here. And this person did come in for anxiety issues. And after rap music, look what happened. This was one rap song. You can see the high beta actually increased. And if you know a lot of details about QEEG, you'll note here is the posterior cingulate area, attentional and emotional regulation. What's kind of interesting is it did actually clear up this theta. So I can see why he kind of liked it, because it made him feel more alert. But the discussion we had is there really a better type of music that might help you a little bit more? So this is maybe a way not to use music to regulate yourself, because while it's helping you in one way, it's not helping you in another way. I'm going to take a brief little segue and talk just on one slide about the social effects of music. We have a workshop that we do, and I hope someday we can do it with you guys as students. Because I have Callum or Pepino come live and play, it's incredible to hear them and experience the music. And then we also talk how you can easily integrate music into your practice as an ancillary entrainment intervention. But one of the things to recognize clinically is that music is really a social emotional communication device, and you should be using it to create relationships with your clients. Music facilitates human contact. It engages parts of the brain involved in social cognition. It increases group empathy, social cohesion. It's a means of communication, helps coordinate movement, etc. So here's QEEG. I won't spend a lot of time going through this, since you guys pretty much already know these different waves: delta, theta, alpha, beta, high beta, and gamma. Here's a picture of raw EEG if you haven't worked with it a lot. But I just put in here, so this is a full disclosure, this is actually my EEG, eyes closed. Raw EEG, and then you can actually extract these delta, theta, alpha, beta, high beta, and gamma waves from someone's EEG. So what is important about this is that, and I hope if there's a take home on this talk, that you'll remember this. So these are all clients of mine. And every single one of these 4 people has the exact same diagnosis. And their diagnosis is ADHD. So you can see this person here has been diagnosed with ADHD, and they have an excess of alpha. This person here has been diagnosed with ADHD, and they actually have way too little alpha, too little theta, and delta. This person here has been diagnosed with ADHD. They have a lot of high beta. And this person has been diagnosed with ADHD, and they have excess theta, delta, and a little bit of excess beta. So we have very, very different brains that are all given the exact same diagnosis. This is something to think about, and I'm going to come back around to this at the end and ask you, what type of music does each of these brains need? And this is the question that Callum and I started working on, is can we use music to help create these different types of waves? So can we compose a song from what we know about EEG and how the brain processes music, can we compose a song within a frequency range, tempo, melodic structure, all these different types of variables that go into music to actually create delta waves, theta waves, alpha waves, beta waves, and high beta waves. And then if you're doing neurofeedback or biofeedback or some other sort of psychophysiological intervention, you can actually use this music in order to make your intervention more powerful. So that was the idea. And let's see, I think I'm going to skip this one for the moment. We'll come back because I know we have limited time here. So I want to talk about, why do we even think we should be doing this? Like, why would we use music? Well, what's really cool is that the brain has these intrinsic oscillators that perceive beat, and these oscillators create expectancies, and they revise their expectancies as needed. And they're connected to larger clock mechanisms in our body. And I don't know, again, if you guys have you guys studied the suprachiasmatic nucleus and all this kind of clock stuff? Not hearing huge yeses. I'll talk just a little bit about it. These clock genes are absolutely incredible. So these are actually the genes, and the red ones are connected to the core clock of our body, which is the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is what paces us. Like, why do we wake up in the morning and we get tired at night? But what's amazing is we have these little clocks in every cell of our body. They're actually in our skin cells and our liver cells and our heart cells and our pancreatic cells. And these clocks entrain, they pick up frequencies that are coming in through our sensory system, and they start to beat to those frequencies. And so you can actually, when you are putting in a certain beat or rhythm into the body, it actually starts to change what the body's doing. And if you really want to get into the kind of details of this, there's a great article by Menon, Menon, if you know that name, where he talks about how all these different frequencies of the body, of the brain and body, are nested within each other. I didn't put it in here because it gets kind of complicated, but people in the music research arena have known this for quite some time. So here's a study that came out in 1997, and played 6 classical music excerpts to 40 college students. Music changed all 12 physiological measures. It impacted heart rate, pulse transmission time to the ear and finger, blood amplitude to the finger, breathing rate, respiration depth, respiration sinus asynchrony, all their measures of blood pressure, skin conductance, and finger temperature. So it was pretty powerful. This is one I think everybody should know about, and you should go out in the world and try to talk to your neonatologist about this. So when live heart music was played to babies in the intensive care unit, the neonatal intensive care unit, they had less cortisol, they had fewer apneas and fewer oxygen desaturations. And there was an additional study that was done on this that I didn't include in this presentation, a different study where they actually played recorded music to NICU babies for 30 minutes a day, and they gained weight faster and got out of the hospital sooner. So music is incredibly powerful. And I just think these studies on these neonatal intensive care unit babies are just quite stunning. Infants move rhythmically to music more than to speech, so you can see already the entrainment capacity of music here. And we experience social bonding when we dance or sway or work to music. So it's really interesting. Even when people were put in an fMRI, functional MRI, where it monitors blood flow, in the brain. And they were said, don't move to the music, just listen to the music. All the premotor and motor areas still responded to the music. So it seems as if we're wired to physiologically respond to music. And it may be one reason that when we also are experiencing music with other people, we start to entrain both to the music and to them, and it creates this feeling of connection. So another really fascinating area with music is this meta-analysis that was done in 2022, and they had 39 studies. And what's really interesting is music interventions were associated with a significant improvement in pain relief. And the work that I'm doing with Peppino right now, Peppino D'Agostino, is actually on trying to compose music to help with migraine, chronic pain, and probably insomnia too, because there's a lot of shared nodes in these three areas in the brain. So what was also interesting is music therapy really helped with cardiac and respiratory function, weight gain, eating behavior, and quiet and alert sleep states. And what I want to tell you just briefly about this is that in this literature, there's a distinction between music medicine and music therapy. So music therapy is done by a certified music therapist who's gone to graduate school in music therapy. And so that might involve actually composing music, playing an instrument, drumming. It's usually a more active form of usually creating or working with music. Music medicine is sort of using medicine as a pill. It's listening to music. And that's essentially the types of interventions that I've been doing research on. And the reason I chose this is because it's such a cheap and easy form of intervention to do, right? You buy a CD for 20 bucks. Uh, it's a very low entry. It's something people can use at home. They can use it when they're driving. They can do this and that. You don't have to spend a lot of money and go see a professional in order to use music to get better. And as professionals, you will also be able to use music to help increase the power of your interventions, whether it's in sports, which is known for a long time, by the way, to use music, whether it's in sports, whether it's in biofeedback or neurofeedback or whatever you end up doing. So slow tempo music increases salivary oxytocin, that sort of love chemical, and an increase in the high frequency component of heart rate variability and a decrease in heart rate. One sort of interesting study, or this was actually a review article, but there's a group of articles that actually found reduced blood glucose when people listen to music. Kind of interesting. And a subset of these studies actually found positive changes in immune markers with music. And parts of the brain involved with music. There's a lot of parts of the brain involved with music. And I just listed some here: the amygdala, orbital frontal cortex, hippocampus, striatum, cingulate insula, all these emotional centers of the brain, memory centers of the brain, all these different processing centers of the brain. And I have a cool article I'd like to show you if we have time about how different genres of music activate different areas of the brain. And what's really interesting about this, I came across a gal. I was actually setting up a concert for Callum to play, and the gal who answered the phone at the church where we were going to play said, "Oh man, my husband just had a stroke. I really think music could help him. Can you make some suggestions for me?" And I said, "Yeah, I can. Where was his stroke?" And you can look at these different genres of music and match them to what part of the brain needs to be activated. And so I talked with her about what music he liked, picked out some songs, and she called me back the next day and she said she had him listen to all this music and he got up and he got up out of his bed and started walking. And she said nobody in the rehab center could believe that what he did after, sort of listening to music for 5 or 6 hours. So really, it's in some cases, I think he was probably almost there. And the fact that the music helped activate these parts of the brain that were not responding well with him just tipped him right over the edge. And I talked to her again. It's been 18 months again the other day, and he's doing pretty darn well. So that was cool. So we know from all these studies that music is affecting the body. So we have all these psychophysiological measures showing entrainment and with the body. But what about mental health issues? So those of you who are interested in mental health issues, there was a really nice review article in 2017 that showed that when music was used as an intervention for depression, they got improvements in the 40 to 50% range, which is better than most medication. So it's like, man, if you can get improvement listening to music in a 40 to 50% range for people that are depressed, why are we not using this? And I think it's really interesting that we don't have an understanding of music integrated into our training for most therapists or people in the medical field who deal with mood disorders. There was a 2020 meta-analysis that they found 55 randomized controlled trials for depression. Again, they made that distinction between music medicine, where you're listening to music, versus music therapy, where you're usually more engaged in music. Both approaches showed a decrease in depression. The music medicine had stronger effects, but it's not really necessarily clear that music as medicine is better than music therapy. It might just be because the studies on music therapy used a very wide range of interventions, and some interventions might have been better than other, and it's sort of washed out when they, put them together to do the meta-analysis. And it looks like 3 to 12 weeks is about optimal for musical interventions. I love this study because I think it's so fascinating. So this guy Feng found that after 10 days of music therapy, so he did it with depressed and control group, and they measured oxygen utility in the frontal lobes. Both the depressed and control group improved in frontal measures of oxygen utility. So music definitely activated the brain. The depressed group had too low of function in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex and the right dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. If all those words are just a bunch of gobbledygook, it's okay. Just know that the front part of the brain wasn't functioning as well, and that this area recovered significantly with the use of a musical intervention. And on top of that, the verbal fluency of both the control and the depressed group improved. In terms of anxiety, it's so interesting to me, like there's not a lot of really good studies on anxiety and music. So if any of you get interested in this, anxiety is a really, it's an area crying out for attention. There's many studies on state anxiety, like if you have to go to the dentist or have a biopsy or do chemo, you should totally listen to music because they all show positive effects. You'll have less pain, you'll be less anxious, life will definitely be better. But studies on longer term anxiety, like generalized anxiety disorders, are much rarer. I could really only find one study that was done in Turkey, and they did it in one of the nursing homes there, and they found that music increased the comfort and decreased the anxiety of elderly people in the nursing home. But this was not a study that was really focused on generalized anxiety disorder per se. there was a very interesting study that was done on rats, and I want to tell you a little bit about that. Young rats were exposed to either music or background noise 2 hours a day for 3 weeks. And then they got exposed to fear training. And the rats that had been exposed to the music had less freezing behaviors, and they responded more, they got over being scared quicker than the control rats did. And another interesting finding on this is BDNF, brain-derived nootropic factor, in the anterior cingulate, which is part of the emotional centers of the brain. So brain-derived nootropic factor helps you make new neurons. It's considered a good thing. And it was higher in the brains of the rats who listened to music than in the control rats. And so their conclusion was they really thought that early life exposure to music might help the rats modulate their response to stressful events, made them essentially more resilient. We don't have any studies on humans that I'm aware of or that I was able to find, but boy, I think this is really interesting when you think about how music could actually be used as a preventive device for people. Autism spectrum disorder, the findings are all over the place because, of course, autism spectrum just includes a huge amount of levels of functioning. So sometimes what I would say is I would have a guarded view of the use of music. Some of these studies show that social skills did improve, others found really nothing. So I think this would be an area, again, that's ripe for further research to try to figure out what's going on. I do want to spend some time on this ADHD study because we all end up seeing so many people with ADHD. And what is interesting on this one is that they had students with ADHD and controls read under 4 different conditions. So they're reading, these are kids, they're reading, there's either no background music, calm music without lyrics, calm music with lyrics, or rhythmic music. And then they assessed reading comprehension and HRV. And again, I'll just give you a quick overview. And I'm sorry this slide is blurry, but I can tell you pretty easily what it's about. So the black line on the left, the lowest black bar there, is kids with ADHD with no music, and reading comprehension is on the left. So you can see the normal kids' reading comprehension was much higher than the kids with ADHD. And then the next 3 are the 3 different types of music. So you can see that when you played music to kids with ADHD, their reading comprehension actually went up. When you played it to normal kids, their reading comprehension did not go up. In fact, it seemed to be impacted in the negative direction. Now, not all those differences are significant, but it really shows you how we need personalized approaches. And also, of course, remember I showed you those 4 different types of ADHD brains, and we'll come back to those in a minute because I think we have the possibility, hold on here, I started the music, of making these sorts of interventions even more effective. All right, so any questions or comments before I launch into the next part of our own research here?
Right?
I have a question, Dr. Minton. Sorry. On the last slide, you mentioned no music was the first column, music was the next 3, but I missed the types.
The types
Was
of
there
music. So
a
yeah,
different?
so one was calm music, one was calm music with lyrics, and one was what they called rhythmic music. But the basic finding is it kind of didn't matter the type of music. Now, there might be some more nuances in here, but the kids with ADHD did better no matter which type of music they listened to, and the differences between the type of music was not statistically significant. Kind of interesting. So this idea that we need to keep everything really quiet for kids with ADHD so they won't be distracted does not seem to be supported by this research. Any other thoughts or questions?
Couple questions in the chat here. What are your thoughts on binaural beats?
Oh, wow. So, how much time do you have? The research on binaural beats is pretty complicated, and some of it seems to show that binaural beats work pretty well, and some of it is quite murky. I don't know, you're probably familiar with Dave Seaver. He really feels like he and I've had some discussions about this, but he really feels like binaural beats aren't truly working the way people think they are. But that's a huge discussion. And so I would say I'm guardedly positive
Suspicious?
about my binaural beats, but it's pretty murky. We definitely need, it's a whole, you know, hour lecture in and of itself, and they're very fascinating. Binaural beats are, and how the brain processes them. And those of you, well, I won't get into further details on that. But any other questions here?
Yeah, quick one is this why we sing the ABCs to teach children?
Yes, well, yeah, you saw that hippocampus there, didn't you, being affected by music? And I think there's pretty good data that music helps memorization. And you think about all these other sort of sanctioned uses of music, hymns in church. We use marches for military events. There's all kinds of things that go on like this. And in the workshop, we get to delve into some of this, and it is actually quite fascinating, some of these things. But here, I did want to take a little bit of time. I want to make sure we have time for more questions and discussions, but I wanted to show you some of the music that Callum and I composed and some of the effects that we found on the brain. So this is a song called Nova, and we composed this to help create delta waves. And this was one of our participants. This is an 11-year-old boy, and I'll play you part of the song. I won't play you the whole thing because we're not going to have time. It's just to hear, just so you can sort of see the vibe of the song. But so this is his delta on the left, pre. So you can see he's kind of blue, especially over the posterior cingulate and left frontal areas. And then we played this song to him, and 5 minutes later, remapped, and you can see the delta actually looks better. And then we had them fill out little forms at the end of each song, and this was just so cute. He says, "It makes me feel calm, and I feel like I'm drifting out of my chair. How did the song make you feel? Happy but mellow? Did you think of any images that came to mind while you were listening? Yes, someone strumming a guitar and something like this." And then he drew a little picture of the strums on there. Did the song make you feel more energized or more relaxed? More relaxed. Would you listen to this song again? Yeah, especially when trying to fall asleep. So I don't want to make you guys fall asleep, but here is a little bit of the song Nova that created this delta. If I can get it to play. So that is up. These are, I don't know if you're familiar with Neuro Navigator and NeuroGuide, but these are pre and post SW Loretta pictures looking down inside the brain. And I know you can't really read these things, but this is the same 11-year-old boy before listening to Nova. And anything blue here means it's significantly underpowered in power, absolute power of the brain. And you can see on the little 3D head map, see all those little blue lines? So in the frontal lobes, you can see he's hypo connected. So the messages are not getting sent strong enough in the frontal lobes. And after this song, look at the changes. I mean, you can see on the picture on the right side, and I was really pretty stunned when I saw this. And especially the fact that the connectivity got better in the frontal lobes listening to that song was really a surprising finding to me. And since, doing this, I've seen some other just crazy things happening with coherences in the brain. And so I think this is just a very exciting area of research. And I hope to do more. So here's kind of an interesting thing. So you just heard that Nova song. Now we all have these people, we're back to these people that have all been diagnosed with ADHD who have very different brains. So there's only one person here I would really, maybe two I would play this song for, but really only one. And I bet you can guess which one it is. It's this person that's got the low alpha, theta, and delta. I wouldn't play this song to really any of these other people because I don't necessarily want to potentiate slow waves with these folks. So these people have the same diagnosis, but we're going to do different interventions with them. So I'm going to show you, this is a concert we did, and this is a song we composed to create beta, or actually this was mostly Callum. I actually mostly at this concert played the pipe organ to accompany him, but I had to play the guitar on this song. I'm not a great guitarist, but we got through it. I'm just going to play you a little bit from the middle part of this song so you can get a sense of a song that created beta here. So let me get Right. There's a little tag on the end of that, but we'll skip that. So if we go back to the previous slide here, if I can get back there. It's not gonna let me move backwards. Hang on. Well, you'll have to pretend. Oh, here we go. Let's go back to this guy. Yeah, so here's our ADHD people again. Which one of these would you play that song to? Now, somebody we want to make more beta, probably this person here, right? So we want to get rid of this alpha because they're just kind of zoned out. They're in that kind of daydreamy state here. So we might play that song for this person. We definitely would not play that song for this person. I would actually play a different song that we wrote called Peace River. That's kind of a more of an alpha, increasing alpha song. So that's just a little bit of a window into the kinds of things that I'm working with. I hope I've convinced you that music is a lot more powerful than what we give it credit for. That we can actually use it to help entrain the brain and move the brain into different states. I've got all kinds of data on that. And I want to leave a little bit of time for you to ask questions. And I would be glad to talk a little bit about how you might be able to integrate this into whatever practice you're interested in if you want to talk a little bit about that. So let me unshare my screen here. I'm really sorry that my camera is not working. And open it up to questions. Sorry, Eric, you'll have to be my face.
We'll respond to your ghost in the background there.
Right, the ghost will respond. What are your thoughts, guys? What are your reactions?
I had a question, Barbara, if that's okay. I was just curious, as you guys are coming up with the musical pieces to target beta or delta, what is it in the music that you're finding is making such an impact? Is it the beat? Is it the chords? Is it the instruments? Like, what have you just kind of intuitively discovered on that journey about making music that has a target towards a brainwave?
Such a good question. And I will tell you that we composed with a number of elements, you know, because we don't, the real answer is we don't know. We know that the brain entrains to beat to tempo. So we know we know tempo is important, whether it's fast or slow, but there's so many other elements than that in music. And when you start to think about music, it gets really complex really fast. And breaking that out and figuring out, like, is there a particular element? It's probably a multifactorial thing where there's tons of elements working together. When you think about just things like phrasing, right? Or how does the melody go up and then go down? Or, does it end on a high note or a low note? Like, all these things work together. The thing that I love about music, regardless of what the element is if we can document its effect, is that people want to listen to music. It's not something that's onerous. And if they like a song, they'll listen to the same songs over and over. So there's a whole set of songs that are calming songs. And I had one client, the very first song I composed, probably 5 or 6 years ago now, to use with some of my neurofeedback clients. I had one client, it's a 2-minute song and it's not very good. And my client that volunteered to try it out listened to it for 60 sessions. That's all the feedback she wanted. And at the end she said, "Can I take this home?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Now, what was that? She's like, "I can listen to this at home and it throws me right back into that state." Now, I'm not sure of the elements of that, but I know that it really added power to the intervention. So I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for that. If I did, we could put it in chat GPT and it would create a bunch of songs for us.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
doing
you.
it the hard way. Other questions?
Tracy, you want to ask your question out loud?
Sure.
Don, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. So I run a neurofeedback practice and I, do my cues and give them the full report and, do neurofeedback. And so this was very, very intriguing for me on how I could give them suggestions for at home, listening to music and things that we know that based on their brain would make them feel better. Do you have like a table or a guide that kind of breaks it down that would guide us?
So here's what I'll tell you. If you do buy that album online, there's a little, or if you buy the CD, it actually comes with a little booklet and it describes which songs are designed to create which waves. And so on those, you can kind of use, if you happen to use that music, you can use that as a guide. But here's what I'll tell you, and you already know this as a practitioner, is what the person brings into the room interacts with the music. And so it's actually personalized medicine. And what's cool about you is you do neurofeedback. So you can actually do pre-post cues and you can see which music is best for the person. And this is one of the things that I really struggle with is people are like, well, we want this piece of music is going to do the same thing to everybody. No, it isn't. So one piece of music might make one person feel calm and it might make another person feel sad. And so we really have to be, I think, more sophisticated in how we think about music. And if you do neurofeedback, you have the tools right at your fingertips in order to make good choices. But I think starting points would be because I've collected data on these songs and I can show you a range of reactions. And actually, let me show you something really quick here, if I can reshare. When I first got into this, let me get out of this PowerPoint. When I first got into this, I actually mapped myself listening to one of Callum's songs that I really liked. And of course, when I saw what my brain did, I sent it back to Dick Gennardi. Those of you that know him, he's a neuropsychologist, because I was so stunned to see it. And of course, he was like, oh my gosh. And so then I went back immediately and I was like, okay, I got to see a bunch of other people's brains listening to this music. And I'm going to show you just a little clip of this video. And you can see both the comments. So just looking at that, you can already see like there's some real commonalities there. You can see what's going on, but you can also see some individual differences. I've got a neat video too of Callum in our workshop. Callum, or if Pepino's doing it, they play to a live 3D image of the brain like this, and you can actually watch the brain respond live. You could do that if you have the capacity in your neurofeedback to create these 3D live images, live Loretta images. So yeah, pretty cool, pretty fun stuff.
Barbara, you mentioned earlier workshops. Do you have some workshops scheduled, or is there a place that students could look at if you were going to do a live workshop somewhere?
You know, we don't have anything scheduled right now. I'd love if Saybrook wanted to
Hmm.
sponsor one. We've done 2 of them, and we always get, I mean, they're just so much fun, and we do this just combination of research and hands-on approach and how to integrate this into your practice and hearing it live and monitoring your own responses. I do some meditation and hypnotherapy to music if people are interested in that. So yeah, if you guys are interested, let people know if we could get something together. I know everybody's spread out all over the country, so maybe that makes it a little challenging. But if there's ever a time when people get together, we could do something. When you guys get together, is that in the Bay Area?
It's in Pasadena.
I'm Pasadena, yeah. So, I mean, that might be a good opportunity to do something. We are going to submit a workshop to the American Psych Association meeting. That'll be next summer, but I'm not sure, you know, we have to go through the whole process to see if they want us
If you want to include it into the hypnosis, I'm the chair for the Division 30, so you could certainly design one hypnosis and music that would be favorably considered.
Oh, wow, we should do that. I mean, the hypnotherapy and music combined, talk about a synergistic effect. And you know all the research on how powerful hypnotherapy can be.
My life career combining those things. So
there you go. So we should talk.
one of the things I've done for the last 25 years, I had a group on chronic pain and depression because I work in a chronic pain setting. And the last thing we do at every session is someone who will, at the beginning of the next meeting, play their favorite music. So we always begin the session with, that's the only explanation, bring some of your favorite music. And so different genres every time, but if you watch the group while they're listening to what's somebody brought as their favorite music, you would never know it was a chronic pain and depression group. It kind of transports them. So it's a very powerful way to incorporate those elements of music, pain, and depression.
Yeah, and there's data to suggest that if you listen to music over the long term, you probably know this, it does change your registration of chronic pain. And I think adding that to those hypnotherapy protocols like Mark Jensen's work, it can be super powerful. I'm working on the data right now, so I'm imaging the migraine, chronic pain, and chronic pain network with these songs that Pepino and I have composed. And oh man, it's just so interesting to see what's happening. So hopefully we'll have that data out here in the next 3 or 4 months. Yeah.
Well, we are going to have to wrap it up for the evening. Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm very sorry we didn't actually get to see you while we're talking to
I know.
you here.
Well, you got to see me in the video. That's good. I look like that.
But you know, we also have a student interest group for the Saybrook Hypnosis Society, whose chair is president and who's also a musician. So we may have you back and talk to a different smaller group and get a chance to talk about some details on that side of things. So
love to do that. That'd be lots of fun.
Thank you very much, and good night to everybody. We will see you all back in class.
Thank you, and thanks for the thank yous, guys. Feel free to email or call.
Thank you, Barbara. That was amazing.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Very well done.
Awesome.
Thank you so
enjoyed
much.
it very much.
Thank you.
Right. Have a good night, guys.
Night out.